and my hot take today is that I think product managers are all going to morph or eventually turn into growth managers. If you're a good and effective product manager, what you usually do is you put a dollar tag on everything you do. On the processes you do, on the effects of your work and revenue, everything you can turn into a money wrapped item. So what I think is happening is finally that's coming out and clear, and the product managers are becoming those growth managers.
Hello and welcome to another episode of One Night in Product, Hot Takes Edition, where I speak to one person about one thing, get straight to the point, and find out what's on their mind. Now, if you've got something on your mind, why not head over to onenightinproduct.com/hot, where you can find a time, grab a slot, we can have a chat and share your opinions with the world. But even if you don't have opinions, head over to onenightinproduct.com anyway, where you can find all of my old podcast episodes with thought leaders and practitioners, as well as links to the podcast on all your favourite podcast platforms, and YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, share, and all of those good things you can do over there. Anyway, enough of me, let's get straight to Olha Yohansen-Veselova's Hot Take. Alright, so in front of me I see a kind of a beigey grey, dimly lit room with a person in front that I recognise, but many people watching this and listening to this may not recognise, so I'm going to throw straight over to you, ask you to tell us your name, where you're based, what it is you do, and most importantly, what's your hot take?
Hi, Jason. Pleasure to be here. Hi, people. I'm Olha Yohansen-Veselova. I'm based in the vicinity of Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And I'm a product advisor, product growth advisor, and I've been a product manager for more than a decade. And my hot take today is that I think product managers are all going to morph or eventually turn into growth managers.
All right. Okay. So that's an interesting one. Obviously, we need to maybe define some terms. So when you say a growth manager, like what are you specific? I mean, we all hopefully know what growth is, but actually, no, let's rewind slightly. Like, what do you even mean by the concept of growth?
So you know how there was this whole conversation about product managers being the mini CEOs of the product that everyone was throwing up.
No one says that anymore.
Nobody says that. That's no longer a thing. So the thing now is we call them growth people. Basically what growth really means. And if you're a good and effective product manager, what you usually do is you put a dollar tag on everything you do. On the processes you do, on the effects of your work and revenue, everything you can turn into a money wrapped item. So what I think is happening is finally that's coming out and clear, and the product managers are becoming those growth managers. The issue I see now is growth manager previously was someone from marketing, someone with the marketing background, someone is responsible for making growth happen. And in this whole concept, growth in my mind equals money. Basically, it's a person who brings more money into the business. And that was usually someone from marketing. What I see now that person becomes more of a product manager. So it's this everything in one person. They make it happener. They bring more money into the company person who is now officially in my mind is the product manager on steroids with all of this AI, this learning, that learning, this learning, earning a bit less than you would expect a good product manager would earn. And people expect them to do everything now.
So you say that they're becoming growth managers. Do you think they're actually becoming it, or do you think that they should become? Like, is this a thing that you want to happen, or is this something that you think is just happening anyway? Because on the other hand, I see a lot of people that are as far from that as possible. Like a lot of kind of almost project manager, product managers that are kind of managing the work on a daily basis and not really get involved in the commercial stuff at all. Like, so do you see this as a good thing, and do you think it's already happening?
I think it's already happening. I think the market dictates it. So what you're saying is it's kind of two things. It's make work happen and then make more money happen. So if you're making work happen, that's great. Let's call it whatever we want to call it these days. Different companies call it different things. But making work happen does not always equal make money happen. And there's all this conversation being like the founder mode grind and, bring in more impact rather than just put in the effort. That is what I think it's going to mean for all of us, the product people. This is it. Like, if we don't make money happen, it doesn't matter how much work is happening on the background.
Well, outcomes over outputs, right? Although this is much more of a kind of a financial outcome for the business rather than a user outcome. But I guess you could argue then, like if we kind of go back to kind of cliches, that the product managers are there to kind of make sure that the company makes money in the long term, or that it, ultimately, not even that really, that they're supposed to kind of build things that then can make money either through the sales team because they're in a sales-led motion, or because it's PLG, they can start to put some of the stuff in to actually drive that from within the product. But that if your main goal is to make money, then could you be potentially in a kind of a bit of a bind? Because the longer term strategic things that maybe you think, well, maybe that'll be better in the long term, might conflict, as within sales, with the fact that you've got to make some numbers this quarter that might be more easily done by kind of making some more tactical moves that aren't going to kind of pay off in the long term. Like, how do you see the impact of effectively putting a revenue target on product managers? What impact do you think that's going to have on product managers?
I think that's really good because we are essentially product managers, right? We won't make an ad hoc salesy get money right now decision based on what the craft demands. But I think I've done this in two roles that were called differently. One was called Chief New Revenue Officer, basically make more new money happen. But as a product manager, I also did that by doing stuff up the funnel that eventually impacted retention, LTV, and all of those. So that is the skill that is, I think, is demanding and evolving. You're no longer required to just make more money right up front, because you know that by what you just said, by solving the customer problems, you are essentially turning this whole thing into a money-making machine now and substantially keeping them from churning for later. And that is why I think it's really great that product people are now tasked or expected from the market to do that, rather than just marketers. No offense to the marketers, deep respect. However, slightly different scale. I also see more marketers want to do more product stuff, which is amazing. So this is coming together. This us versus them mentality from marketers versus product people, I think now is going to morph into one nice, interesting role that I would love to see more people do. But that's challenging. That is scary stuff.
But do you think that product managers in general, whatever the market may demand, like based on the fact that, where they've come from over the last few years or decades, and, you say yourself, you've been doing it for a little bit, I've been doing it for a little bit, and, we've all come from different places and different types of companies, and maybe some of those companies don't really think about things in these terms, and they very much see product managers as having maybe a different special set of skills that they should be using to do a different sort of thing. And like you say, the marketing team go and do the other stuff. Do you think that product managers in general are prepared for, changing into this direction, or do you think that they've got a lot to learn? And I guess also by extension, the product marketers that want to get closer to product, like, do people have the skill sets already, or if not, where are they going to go and start getting them, I guess?
I think they should, because AI is really, AI everything.
Oh,
Everyone wants
don't
to...
play the AI card on me. Don't play the AI.
I have to. Look, I was hired to do a job of 6 people not so long ago. And the expectation is that you're a product manager, right? So you have a basic of design, you have a basic of marketing, you have a basic of understanding of, user research. Do it. There's all the tools out there. Go find them. Go make it happen. So I think that the essential, what you ask, are product managers equipped? Soft skill wise, they are. Hard skill wise, it's up to them. Now it's everybody's problem to get themselves upskilled. But if you're not doing that, you will be so behind in a few years, because this is essentially what we must adapt to. And see, I'm not saying which AI or how or which tool or how to save you 20 hours of your work. Product managers essentially are used to adding value by removing impediments, the classic one. Sometimes it's a bit more into get work done, but we're all product managers most of us are product managers in businesses. And unless you're charity, even that makes money. Everything evolves around making money. And you are making money by causing value to your customers, to your end customers. And then the definition of customers varies, of course. There are internal stakeholders there, internal customers, external customers. Doesn't matter. Your aim is to bring value. How you do this, with which tools you do this now, I think it's shrinking. Now I see clearly, I have a few job descriptions right here of an expectation of a product manager with experience, having understanding of marketing, being responsible of the profit and loss charts, having the budgets, and then actually building the unit, managing people, all on this salary. And I first was shocked, then I was doubtful. On the 3rd job post, I was like, wait a minute, there's a trend in there. And I see it's happening more and more and more and more, where this product role is expected to do everything and be responsible of the money making.
So that's interesting though, because obviously you've got the reinforcement there of the roles that you've seen. I'm sure that you've seen many since, but do you think then this is something that is applicable or kind of becoming more popular in certain types of companies? Obviously, again, you're working much more growth side. So maybe that's something that you're going to see because those are the types of jobs that you're looking for versus like maybe someone that's going to go into, I don't know, be some kind of platform product manager for a bank or something like that is not going to be expected to do some of those things, whether or not they
Not
could maybe
yet.
benefit from, well, but maybe they're going to potentially benefit from having some of the mindsets. And, I've done workshops with internal product managers on, kind of trying to bring some of that external mindset in, because, you can still use it to inform some of your decision making, but at the same time, it's not quite the same, especially if you're building like internal tools for, a big corporate or something like that. Like, it's not going to be exactly the same. And probably some of the things that you've just said are not going to be applicable to all types of company. But like, do you see there being very specific, like, PLG companies, like, are they the ones that are looking for this the most? Or do you think this is something that's sort of more generic across B2B in general? Like, what are you seeing, I guess?
I think it's coming for all of us. I see more in B2C, in early scale-up modes where companies are growing quickly. They need that kind of entrepreneurial mindset, and they're looking at product people for that. I was also managing an internal tool in a big corporation. What helped me most to get my point across, because, internal tools are hard to sell. The time to market is endless. It is by wrapping up your value that you add in money. And it can be reverse money. It can be time saved. It can be resource, cut. It can be anything there. So I think it's the mindset shift that comes. Someone came to me recently and she was like, I'm at this product. I have no control over what I can do. I only have this much of impact. And like, I have 3 developers. How can I become a growth product manager? Because this is what I see happening. And that's really when I started paying attention. And then I told her, look, you are already in a role where you can have impact. Change your mindset. Look at it as if you are already a growth manager and do what you can with what you have. You are already building up a case for yourself, and then you can sell yourself further in this role or in another role, but you can already do that. So I think this whole mentality, is it coming from me? Am I safe, or should I do this? Yes, you should. And it would help you regardless, but it is a mindset shift because we're all here in the business of making money. And I think that is the thing that once you let go of that, it becomes so much easier to see how you can create more impact. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. But there's an interesting word that you use there, which I think is, the concept of PMs being more entrepreneurial. This idea that rather than being the kind of the backroom people that are just sort of sitting there and being told what to do, that they start to take more responsibility, start to think more of the business as a whole. And certainly when you're in an earlier company, you talked about like pretty early stage companies, for example, then of course, like there's almost this idea that like, well, everyone's got to kind of put their sort of hands on the wheel, and everyone's got to kind of go in the same direction. But do you think that most product managers, and I know that you don't know them all, but like that most product managers, from what you see around, the internet and like what people are talking about and people you speak to and people you hang out with, do you think most product managers are entrepreneurial or want to be entrepreneurial? Or do you think that some product managers are expecting to exist in a system and kind of not have to make some of those big calls or consider, for example, the business? Because it is a bit of a balance, right? Some people out there sitting there saying, well, users, but there's this business part. Do you think everyone's thinking about that at the moment?
I personally think it should be the case. If I go back
that
10
wasn't the
years.
question though. Come on.
No. Look, I'll tell you a personal story, okay? Listen. When I was a young product manager, and product manager was a hot profession, it was something better paid than project management, and whichever background you come into it, you are interested in that role because you kind of do stuff, you kind of walk around with your laptop, talk to people, and like, everyone talks to you, and this is interesting, and you get stuff to happen. I was in that mindset, and I asked my manager, what do I do to get promoted? How do I grow? And the answer was, well, a good product manager would know. So if I were to talk to myself 10 years ago,
that's bad management. I'm going to tell that manager off right now.
I know. And so what I would like to say, this is the answer to your question, is this is what will get you to the next level, regardless of what you want to do or progress or grow. If you have this mindset of, oh, what do I need to do to grow? Oh, I'm just a cog. Who am I to make that? That does not matter. You have your area, you have your scope, you have your button. I worked at booking.com. The joke is, oh, on which button? So I worked on smaller scopes too. You can still make your work exceptional. You can hone your craft. You can improve your soft skill. You can switch on the commercial awareness competency. You can do that regardless of the area that you play. Because a reminder, if you're receiving a salary, you're probably working for a revenue generating enterprise or company, or, there is a business there. So if you're in that position, this is how you progress, regardless of what you want, later on. You might not want to become a growth manager. You might not want to go entrepreneurial because entrepreneurial gives you this ego of, oh, yeah, that's not me. Well, guess what? It is, regardless, a path for most of us, which is the competency which I believe anyone, especially in product, should pay attention to.
All right, so if we buy that, then I guess there are two questions. I'm going to take them one at a time and hopefully remember the second one by the time we get to it. But the first question is, what skills specifically do these people that maybe they don't have at the moment, if they've been kind of more inwards facing, like what skills do these product people need to develop? And to some extent, where should they try to develop them, or how should they try to develop them?
That's two questions. What skills and how?
No, well, that's actually 1A and 1B. Two's coming in a minute.
Okay, cool. Skill number one, continuous learning. You have to continuously want to learn, and that is something you can learn. No pun intended. Second, look left and right. You are sitting in an area of responsibility, probably as a product manager, you're responsible of something. Learn to do or observe what stuff happening right before your level of scope does and right after. So if you're in my case, for example, product onboarding, user activation flow, look at what monetization is doing and how they're retaining people and how they're preventing people from churning, and look at marketing. Learning those already expands your level of impact. And these are the growth roles that I was referring to at the beginning of our conversation. Product manager with marketing, with monetization expertise, and 2 years of experience, which got me thinking, how on earth would you be good at any of that if you only have worked for 2 years? Well, if you're constantly learning, you're not just sitting through those town halls. You're not just sitting through your team or fellow team updates. You're actually learning, you're listening, you're taking notes, you're curious, and you're curious how everything else around you works. And that is the biggest mistake I did as a product manager. I was so focused on getting my job done right that I never looked a little bit beyond, a little bit above. And that is actually what you do to get promoted, apparently. You do a bit beyond, a bit above. They notice it, or you effectively showcase that, which is skill number 2. You no longer just do your job. You also show that you've done it. You communicate it to the right stakeholder with the right level of detail. You lift your colleagues and people next to you by showing how amazing they are doing. All of that really helps. People say politics, self-PR. I say visibility. Nobody will talk about your work unless you do. And that's important. And the third one is the internet is full of learnings. Go and learn. But learning for the sake of learning is useless. Learn something that will help you get something better, a little bit improved, some little bit of your process a little bit better. Immediately, you already increased, the quality of your work and hopefully the quality of your output. Every day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, tiny improvement. You know that equation? That's, something tiny once a day, 300
times whatever, yeah.
That one. That's what I think is crucial. So how and where the internet? I mean, look things up. We're at a luxurious age of anything is available to you. Do, of course, check your references. But, you can learn stuff. People are so openly sharing stuff. I'm seeing the more I share, the less people are actually implementing stuff that I share. They're like, oh, yeah, that is so advanced. I'm like, it's right here. Take it. So take stuff. Learn it. Take it. Own it.
But there's
Second
a flip
question?
side to that. Kind of a 1 point C or something like that. Like, I agree with what you say about there being so much knowledge these days, and certainly, there's more content out there than ever before, and hopefully some people even get to use some of it. But isn't there also a danger if people are trying to pick up these additional skills that maybe to some extent there's going to be kind of a sort of a Dunning-Kruger thing where they're not quite, they know enough to start having conversations about it, which is a good thing, but they are maybe start to have a bit too much confidence that they know how to do the things when these marketers and other people are around are sitting there saying, well, actually, you've not got a big enough picture and therefore you're actually getting in the way. Like, is that a risk at all? Or do you think that that's something that could be managed?
Well, I think if you're humble enough to acknowledge the curve and then actually smart enough to implement it on your scope of work and you've wrapped everything in a dollar value and you see an effect, if you're bringing more money into the company and not being a complete ass, why not? Go for it.
No promises, no promises.
No, right? That's the important one too. Be humble, please, and don't be mean to others. That's critical.
Hear, hear. So then the second question of the 7 that I've asked so far is, providing that this kind of goes in the direction that you're saying, like, what do you see or where do you see product managers spending their time? Like, what things should they be doing? And by extension, then what things shouldn't they be doing? Like, how does the day-to-day, or how do the day-to-day activities of a product manager pan out in this new sort of growth first role?
I think that's where the entrepreneurial mindset comes in. You look at the endless amount of work as a product manager. There's always going to be more work than time. And you prioritize ruthlessly, not just the work you do, but your time as well. So you apply your product growing principles to yourself. What am I going to learn? How am I going to do the most valuable, impactful task right away? How am I going to get the stuff out of my side of the field so I'm not blocking anyone, and stuff gets to happen, the value gets to multiply, but then I'm also honing my craft, I'm also chasing, my progression, whatever. I think it's a really hard one because we're so torn as product people. There's so many things to do, so much context switching, so many different activities. So that's where your prioritization skill is going to come really handy. And I think product managers are going to become these ultimate IC mode where you're doing so much, or you're getting stuff done for you through different stakeholders or agencies or freelancers or anything, that if you have that entrepreneurial mindset in the way that you can know what is the most impactful thing you can do today, and it should be one. We've evolved the word priorities into plural form, which it was never intended to be. What is your one priority for today? Do that, create value, generate value, and then you move on. And I think the path for the product managers in general, career-wise, is twofold. One, I'm seeing a rise of these like individual contributors, and a lot of people talk about that. You as an individual contributor with all of these agencies and tools and AI can generate so much more value, or you turn into this advisor, mentor, fractional high-level role where you come into companies.
Oh God, not more of them. There's enough already.
Enough, yes. Well, what was the number? 120,000 fractionals, 12,000 fractionals registered. There's a lot of, but there's a reason for it, right? Nobody wants to do this full time anymore. Like, if we can do it half the time, why bother? So that's why and I think the market will have to catch up, or we're all out of jobs. But I think I know how to get this whole mode activated in your company. I'll come in. I'll train your people to do that. I'll be the good manager that, I didn't have back then 10 years ago. I'll help them, but you don't have to keep me full time. I'll do this in the magic, in like the minimal time. You don't have to afford me full time. I can cause more value to more customers doing that way. And then I can move on. I think that is the mode. But because you were entrepreneurial all that time, you already know how to do that. You become your own product. And that is, the inception mode of it. I find it quite ironic, actually, but I think that's where it's going. Isn't it happening to you too? Isn't that what you do also when we're helping companies?
Oh, I would never stoop so low as to advertise myself on my own podcast, but something along those lines. And I should say that other contractors and consultants and freelancers are available. We're a neutral podcast, but also hire me and Olya as well. You need to hire both of us. But if people want to come and talk to you after this about what they've heard, if they think that sounded good, if they thought that maybe there's something to it and they want to come and find out more, or kind of connect up with you and have a chat, where can they come and do that?
Sure. I have 3 places. One, LinkedIn. Please DM me. LinkedIn is becoming quite of a Wild West. I don't love it. I know you don't love it neither. I hope it just becomes a job board back again and a resume place. I really want to see that time. For that reason, I've also created a newsletter recently, literally 2 weeks ago. So please do join me on my newsletter. The links are everywhere. And then the third is a growth mentor platform where you can book a free 30-minute call with me and just leave me a review, which will help more people discover my profile. But that's what I do there too. I help people, have these conversations and help them with their product growth. But this is where I like to have those conversations happen.
No, absolutely. It's always good to give something back and, have a few chats where you can. But, at the same time, again, people need to give us poor, struggling consultants money from time to time as well, right? Like, it can't all be for free. But some of it can be for free. That's the most important thing. Well, I'll put all of those links into the show notes. Hopefully some people will come and, grow your repertoire by coming and have a chat with you. But all I can do for now is thank you for your hot take.
Thank you, Jason.